Hello, this is Kevin with Hardcore Gamer.
And this is Steve Hannley with Hardcore Gamer.
Steve, is it the most wonderful time of the year?
It sure is. You know why that is, Kevin?
Because there's another Call of Duty.
That's right. Blops 3, as they call it.
Blops 3?
Yeah, that's.
What's that stand for?
I'm not quite sure. I think it's a sequel to that one game, A Boy and His Blob. But that's my best guess.
Are you sure it isn't the sequel to the 3-year-old game that has more players than the previous 2 Call of Duty games?
You know what, Kevin? That sounds a lot more likely now that you say it.
Alright, so we have Call of Duty Black Ops 3, developed by Treyarch. They're back in the leadership role. This is the first Call of Duty that's had 3 years of development time. What's it like?
Well, it's like a Call of Duty that had 3 years of development time. This is a Call of Duty that's been, I wouldn't say redesigned from the ground up, but it is quite different than the previous Black Ops games. Black Ops 2, of course, had those branching paths and Michael Rooker. Unfortunately, this doesn't have either of those things, but it makes up for it in many other ways. What we're going to get here is we're going to get a full-fledged story that's completely unrelated to the events of the last games. We have a new actor in this game. We went from, I think, Michael Rooker to Eminem doing a song and goes to Kevin Spacey. We've gone down a rung or two. We got Christopher Maloney in this one. A lot of people would know him from Law & Order. He was also in the recent Man of Steel. He does a great job, though. He's one of those character actors that's very underrated, and he shines here. There's also some talent from Jeff Goldblum and Heather Graham. They are in the Zombies mode. Besides the Zombies mode, we have Free Run mode. We have, of course, the campaign, and Dead Ops Arcade 2.
Sweet. It sounds like there's a ton of content in this game, much more than Ghosts or Advanced Warfare, which were criticized for lacking content.
Yeah, definitely true. This game basically is 5 standalone games in one. Of course, Free Run is more of a tutorial that they've made into a kind of a time trial. But I mean, Dead Ops Arcade 2, that's a full-fledged game. That's going to last you a few hours probably, playing all the way through. And of course, it's an arcade game, which means that you can go back multiple times. You can replay it to beat other people's scores. You can try to beat your own score. There's branching paths in it. The multiplayer, of course, is fully formed. This year we have a lot more features. Single player is one of the more beefy campaigns in a while. It's about 10 hours long. And finally, Zombies is also another standalone mode. It takes place in only one map. I'm sure more will be added down the line. But that map is quite large, and as many zombie players know, it's so difficult that you'll definitely be exploring every inch of it.
Wow. Okay. Let's break this down by mode. So, with the campaign, Treyarch's typically well known for delivering some really solid stories, some really solid campaigns. What's the campaign here like?
Well, I have no idea, to be quite honest with you, Kevin. It's pretty incomprehensible, and I say that in the most loving way possible because this campaign is bat sh double hockey sticks crazy. I mean, we have a lot going on. It starts off kind of riffing on the movie Source Code. I don't know if you've ever seen that, with Jake Gyllenhaal, brother of Maggie Gyllenhaal, who's known for Never Back Down, one of the greatest films to ever not break $5 million at the box office. But it kind of deviates from there, and I give the Source Code example because we have this soldier who gets horribly injured in battle.
Is it completely customizable, or is it like a stock character that they built for you?
No, it is customizable, which is really cool. You can actually play as a female or a male in this game, which is a little bit of a departure for the series. I don't believe you could do that in the last few games. I know the last game you were, I believe, playing as basically Troy Baker. But this, you kind of are just either, a guy or a girl, but they still do a good job factoring you into the story. They have a guy with you on every single mission, even a single player, and he's kind of the person who's progressing the story forward, but you are a part of the story. And beyond choosing your sex, you can choose your gun, you can choose your outfit, so it's definitely a more customizable single-player campaign. And once you get into it, after the kind of the opening big opening mission. I don't know what you'd call it. You wake up on a train and you are not sure what's going on. Christopher Maloney's character explains to you that you are still in a hospital. You were severely injured, and he's putting you into this scenario that happened many years ago where a train was blown up by a terrorist. There was a bomb stored, and he challenges you with finding the terrorist and stopping the bomb from exploding. As anyone who's seen that movie Source Code could agree with, this is definitely the same plot as that. But weirdly enough, it kind of deviates from that pretty quickly. All of a sudden, you go from this stopping these events from happening, even in a simulation, to going 5 years into the future. And they just a quick montage explaining what happened. Basically, you're just a badass and you have these cybernetic enhancements all over you, and you've just been ridding the world of terrorism. So you get dropped into this terrorism scenario where you have to go stop these various groups. The game's kind of that kind of generic Call of Duty for a while, but then it just gets out there. It's very existential. You have a lot of scenes where there's just the characters questioning life. There's a lot of twists and turns. This is definitely not just for, you know, as people refer to them, cock diesel soldiers out on a mission. These are some severely flawed characters, it turns out. And there's so much going on. It takes you in multiple realities. It takes you into dreams. It takes you in the future and the past. It's hard to get really deep into why it does this without spoiling it, but it is a wacky, crazy ride.
Wow. Definitely did not expect that, especially after World at War and the previous two Black Ops games. But obviously campaign is a side dish to the main entree of a Call of Duty game, which is the multiplayer mode. So they basically have this new momentum-based movement system which replaces the exosuits from Advanced Warfare. How does that work into the gameplay?
You know, it's very similar to Advanced Warfare. It's funny because I've talked to the head developers of this game multiple times now. I was out in San Francisco for the review event for the game, and I kept posing the same question every time I was able to talk with a developer, and that was basically, so you definitely were influenced by Advanced Warfare, right? And they always kind of try to dodge that question, or, you know, be like, no, it was just its own thing, its own universe. But it's pretty obvious that, I don't know if they were given Advanced Warfare, in no pun intended, in advance to try to build their game off of, or if Activision said, hey, listen, Treyarch, we are taking this series into a future, more Halo-like direction, so get on the bandwagon. But they've introduced a lot of, like you said, a lot of these similar, they don't call them exo abilities, but they are quite similar to Advanced Warfare. There's not exo jump, but there's boost jump, and it's basically the same thing. You can slide, you can wall. I can't remember if you could wall run in Advanced Warfare. I believe you could, but they definitely put a big emphasis on that in this game. So there's a lot of verticality, not quite as much as Advanced Warfare, but you're going to be hopping around, you're going to be jumping from place to place. So it's definitely more of an Advanced Warfare type of game and less of a Black Ops 2 type of a game.
Okay, and then the other, I guess, controversial addition to the multiplayer are the specialists. Can you break them down, and do you think that they are balanced, or do you think they break the multiplayer experience?
So there's 9 specialists in all. There's Ruin, Seraph, Outrider, Reaper, Prophet, Nomad, Spectre, and not the fantastic, right, James Bond film, Battery, and Firebreak. They range from just kind of an average, again, going to use this awesome word, cock diesel, to average female soldier, to there's some pretty wacky, kind of spooky things in there. There's an android that's pretty creepy. He's actually my favorite. And their abilities are superpowers, to put it lightly. There is gravity spikes, which is kind of the one you've been seeing in a lot of trailers just because it looks badass. He grabs these 2 electric spikes and slams them into the ground, and this big shockwave goes off. There's another weapon called the Sparrow, which is from Outrider. That's a compound bow with explosive bolts, so you can kind of pretend to be Katniss Everdeen, but a little more bulky, although it is a female Outrider, which is pretty cool, Alessandra Castillo. And besides the weapons themselves, you also have abilities for each of these specialists. For instance, going back to Ruin, who has the gravity spikes, he has overdrive, which is a burst of speed, so you just kind of go really fast for a short period of time. And then there's also abilities like glitch, which you can flash back to a previous position.
I'm gonna have to stop you there for a second, but this sounds a lot like Destiny and its super abilities, which unbalance that multiplayer experience.
That's a very valid point, and it's funny because a few of the character designs even remind me of, I can't remember what the Destiny heroes are called, but they kind of look similar to that. Guardians, right? And, you know, at the end of the day, does it change the Call of Duty multiplayer? Yes, it definitely does, of course. There's these big abilities that come into an effect. But it's not like you're running around, because that's also something that kind of ruined that online multiplayer game, City of Heroes, is when everyone is a superhero, then no one's a superhero. Everyone's even with each other. But you only get these cool abilities very infrequently throughout combat. So the average match, and we're talking maybe 5 to 10 minute match, you're only going to get to use this one time. So it's not like you can run out every time and the guns don't matter, you can just go spike people. It's a very, very unique thing, and you only get it if you're doing well. So it's not like, you know, a bad player can come from behind and score a lot of points. So it really just adds a layer of strategy, because now everyone is going to have this ability. You know that in past Call of Duty, there's only a certain amount of things you could do. You were a human, and especially in the ones before these abilities, like before Advanced Warfare, you could jump, you could hide, you could crouch, right? But there wasn't a whole lot of variation from that. But all of a sudden now, you could be going out, and you could be facing someone invisible. So it definitely makes people think a lot more. It makes you have to figure out which specialist is right for which game mode and which map, and really use it to your advantage.
I guess overall, how does this multiplayer experience compare to Ghost and Advanced Warfare, which were kind of lacking? They didn't have the replayability that something like Black Ops 2 or Modern Warfare 2 had.
Sure, I was a fan of Ghost. Ghost kind of reminded me of a good old-fashioned SOCOM kind of a game, where you had these long kind of big drawn-out matches and these big maps. But this game is definitely, again, more like Advanced Warfare than it is Modern Warfare 3. You have the verticality, you have the futuristic technology, of course you have these specialist abilities we just talked about. The game modes themselves, there's a lot of carryover for the past 2 years. One of the modes that it was premiered in Advanced Warfare called Uplink, which I believe was a fan favorite. If not, I was one of my favorites, which is right, the football game where you picked up the ball and you had to run across and put into the other enemy's base to capture it, which was a lot like Capture the Flag, but the ball could actually bounce around, which made it pretty cool. That comes back in this game. Besides that, there's not a whole lot of new modes that are that notable. The most is definitely Safeguard. Now, Safeguard is a brand new mode, and it's an attack-defend game. So it's going to be a little bit like some other games you've seen in the past, but this is definitely a new spin on it. You have a drone that's continually advancing on the battlefield so long as someone on your team is near it. Now, the other team can come and stop that drone by disabling it, or by, of course, disabling you, and stop it from coming to its base. So the object, of course, is to always have someone nearby the drone escorting it, and also have people nearby making sure that people don't get too close and just blow you up with a grenade or disable the drone. When the drone is disabled, you have a few seconds to go to that it doesn't move, and you have to go and get it back online and get it back to their base. So it's a cool mode. You go back and forth, take turns alternating. But besides Safeguard, there's not a whole lot of new modes that are all that notable, but they did do a great job curating the best ones from the series thus far.
So in terms of the series overall, where would you say that Black Ops 3's multiplayer lies?
I would put it near the upper echelon. It's not going to be the best, and that's of course very subjective. Some people, again, me, thought Ghost was one of the best multiplayer. Some people thought it was bad. So it's always going to be very subjective, especially because you have so many different eras in this series. You have present, future, past, far future. So there's a lot going on. I would put this probably in the 80 percentile, somewhere around there. It's not the best, but it's one of the better ones, and I think that year after year they are improving overall. It's just a matter of there is nostalgia at play in some of the older Call of Duties.
All right. So after multiplayer comes the other big mode, zombies. First
Yes.
introduced in Call of Duty World at War as kind of an Easter egg, and now become more and more prominent in each game. How big is it in Black Ops 3?
Well, it's funny you mentioned the Easter egg aspect because it is incredible that it really did just start as, hey, this is a bonus, this is fun, let's see if people have fun with it too. I believe they had a big talk at one of the conventions earlier this year talking about just how influential this mode is. There's a lot of people now who are buying this mode just for zombies. You got to remember, this is a world who the popular culture has been, no pun intended, but eaten alive by zombies in recent years. Of course, The Walking Dead is still breaking records on television. Surprisingly, it's showing no signs of slowing down. So a lot of people want to play a zombies game, and God knows how, but Call of Duty has done the best job at this. So zombies is, again, a self-contained game. It's more like the zombies we saw in Black Ops 2 and less like the Easter egg in World at War. In this game, you have a 1940s film noir-inspired world called Morgue City. The zombies mode itself is called Shadows of Evil. There's 4 characters in the game. The magician, the femme fatale, the cop, and the boxer. They're voiced by, again, pretty big talent, Jeff Goldblum, who is Nature Finds a Way, Jurassic Park, of course. Heather Graham from The Hangover. And Neil McDonough from Captain America. And he did a great turn, I believe, in Justified Season 3. Ron Perlman rounds out as of course, Hellboy in Sons of Anarchy. So you have some great actors who they recruited into just this one mode. They're not in the campaign. It shows you, again, how much Treyarch and Activision care about making this a great experience. There's just the one map to start with. Probably more will be added down the line in DLC. The map is pretty large. We're talking about, again, a 1940s kind of film noir thing. So you have, it takes place in the nighttime. You have that music going on in the background, the kind of jazzy, mysterious music. There's automats. There's I'm not sure even what it is exactly, kind of a cable car that goes across the world that takes you to different areas. It's a big world and there's a lot going on. And they definitely extend the gameplay by making it just difficult as heck. We're talking, most people will not get past Wave 5 in the first maybe 2 hours of playing. It is a tough mode. It challenges people to work together. You have to work together. You hear that a lot in the cooperative modes, but literally in this mode, if you're not on the same wavelength, doing the same exact strategy that you need to succeed, you are going to fail. So you have to kind of become one person with the other players. Everyone has a role. Everyone needs to be in the right place. Every single wave, you can unlock more gates. If you fail to unlock the gates, you're going to probably die because they just swarm you right away. So you need to kind of expand the world and give yourself more buffer zone. The enemies get harder as you go along. There's also like some flying hornets kind of going on in the map. So it's not just zombies. You can turn into this big, crazy monster tentacle creature, and that helps you in battle. It's a lot of fun. It's, of course, again, it's just one map. So it's not like it's a game you could get away with charging $60 for, but is the game you can get away with playing for over 10 hours? Definitely. It's an addictive experience, and they did a great job really making it its own game, but still feel like part of the Call of Duty Black Ops 3 experience.
So overall, it really ate you up.
That's a great way to put it.
So overall, how do you think Black Ops 3 compares? Is it the next great Call of Duty game?
That's going to be something very subjective. Some people love Ghost, some people hate Ghost, some people love Advanced Warfare, some people think it was too much like Halo. So there's always going to be people who love certain Call of Duty experiences and don't really care for others. But Black Ops 3 is a really nice kind of middle-of-the-road type of multiplayer. It's not too crazy, but yet it offers some new things, some interesting ideas. It's just fun. It adds the specialists, which have those really cool abilities. It has basically 5 game modes in one. Single player, multiplayer, free run, and Dead Ops Arcade 2 is just a blast. It could be its own game. I played that for about 5 hours. And Zombies, of course, is more and more seeming like maybe they're going to spin that off into its own thing eventually. So there's a lot of value here. It's a lot of fun. The multiplayer is going to be addictive. There's not a whole lot of new game modes, but the ones that they've added are fun, and the ones they've brought back are the right ones, the ones that they should keep bringing back. And I think they kind of nailed that in the last few years of figuring out, okay, these are the ones that the fans are gonna want to play year after year. So it's a great value, and it just shows that giving an annual franchise a 3-year development cycle is the way to go.
Awesome. Well, thank you for talking with us, Steve.
Oh, my pleasure.
And if you'd like to learn more about Black Ops 3, including reading our review, please check us out at hardcoregamer.com.